experiences through those critical stages in life. And there tends to be, from my point of view, looking on this whole spectrum of whether or not people do come back to church or not. I mean, I see it in my family. I saw it with myself. There seems to be this strong navigational pull towards the society and how the culture of our communities and our schools influence us in certain ways that maybe make us feel guilty to come back to church, or to come in and look at other people that may be looking like they have the perfect life, right? And they are the perfect church-going family or person, and then we feel ourselves that I don't feel as worthy, I don't feel like I should be involved with them because I sin, and we need to realize at this time, and we don't until we're older, that everyone sins. We all have our own struggles, and like I said, from my personal experience, it was later in 18, 19, 20 when I was involved with the pageant and doing all of these things that weren't necessarily healthy in terms of the Christian lifestyle. At the same time, I felt like I still had my faith, and I still felt like I was still innocent in that area. But you tend to be put into events or situations where you feel tried and challenged by, do I do this because this is what I feel like God is telling me? You need to be stepping up to the plate and really showing other people that your faith and your Christianity is what's keeping you together and keeping you strong. At the same time, you know, you're involved with certain things in life, in school, and I just feel like for me, what I was doing at that stage in my life, I was struggling. It was a juggling act between, okay, this is the right thing to do, but at the same time, you know, everybody else does this, right? And I think that's a struggle that everybody has, and whether or not we are strong enough in our faith and our relationship personally with God and Jesus to allow ourselves to revert back and say, you know what, this is what I need to be doing. I need to be following this path. I can't be tempted to follow the social aspects of our society and of our world. And I think that's something that, you know, I can repeat myself, everyone struggles with. And like I said, it's that navigational pull for yourself to either, like the north and south, I'm sorry, I'm getting all engineering on us, but connecting in a way where the force is so strong that it is so hard to rip yourself away. But if you're doing north and north, you can see that pull and that tendency to revert back to where you're supposed to be. So, sorry.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome.
Wasn't that long?
No,
not yet.
Of course not. No. Anyone else? Jemima, didn't you raise your hand?
No. Okay, I'm gonna say something. Well,
You gotta top that.
not really. Okay. But well, the question is, why do you think people get away from church? I'll give my personal experience and then okay. Well, don't laugh, Cecilia. I grew up in a Christian family. Well, my father was a youth pastor and my mother was like a Sunday school teacher or whatever. And I grew up like being like, oh yeah, you're supposed to like go to church. And I grew up like going to church. And like, if you ask me like, I'll say 10 years ago, why do you come to church? I would just say, oh well, my mother tells me to go to church. Oh, I grew up in a church. And that's like the reason that I say like, I will do that.
Yeah.
And like, you get to a point where like, you just have to be real and ask yourself like, why do I come to church? Is it because my parents drag me to come to church every day, or is it because I want to serve God and I want to have a relationship with God and connect, I don't know, spiritually with God? And so like sometimes I feel like I used to come to church because of my parents. And I think that some of the reasons why people get away from church is because they expect something out of church or out of God. And so when they don't get what they needed, or oh, I'm going to come to church because Ceci's my friend and she's going to hang out with me all the time, blah, blah, blah. I feel like sometimes we come to church for the wrong reasons. And I feel like that's the reason why like people get away from church. Because if they don't find what they're looking for, they end up they'll be like, okay, so that doesn't work. I'm gonna go to get something else, or to another church, or maybe if I hang out with a certain group of people, it will help me. Like I'll feel like
So
fulfilled.
looking for fulfillment.
Yeah. Thank you.
That really makes sense in that age bracket.
Yeah.
How we're all learning how to make decisions for ourselves, and really, I could go off and rant on that too. I won't go there. But I mean, the world seems to be like the government. I mean, we go to school up until a certain age. We are told that, you know, if you want to go past high school, then you go to post-secondary education, college, university, trade, whatever. And then after that, like, the government throws us into the workforce, right? It's the same thing with decisions. Like, up until you're 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, your parents are forming you to create decisions for yourself. And really, at that stage in life, it seems to me that that is the bracket in which we are really learning who we are as our own individual person, and how we're growing into an adult and making decisions on our own, and our frontal lobe is not quite complete yet. And during those ages, it's just a matter of deciding and realizing, okay, this is my faith, this is what I want, this is the society, this is what we live in. How can I balance the two, or do I just choose one? Mm-hmm. And I think it also comes down to decision making, and that seems to be, I mean, God put us on this earth to make our own decisions, and it's up to us if we want to follow Him or not, and He's just waiting.
I mean that sort of speaks to like the way that I grew up as well too, right? Like up until 16, you hit that age and you hit 16, you're just like, what up, mom and dad? I'm making all my own decisions, right? So you do that, and so I thought, okay, forget that. Mom was like, oh, you can't go out tonight, and just like, really, watch me out the door, right? And then you know, you like it continued like 16, 17, and then I went to university, right? And it continued in university, and then when you realize how much different making your own decisions are, and how it leads you to areas that you never thought you'd actually end up being in those situations, you sit back and you're just like, how did I even get here?
Yeah.
Right? And so I did that. Like up until like 16, I was always at the old 365, whatever they used to call it back here, right? And then after that, it was like, I can make my own decisions now. I don't need to go to youth anymore. It's sort of like a two-part thing too. So I went, and then you did all the stuff that you thought you could do. Try to find acceptance everywhere else that you could find it, right? With the parties, with the friends. And then it wasn't just until probably last year when I started actually working my job, and I realized, you know what? I can't do this job alone. I can't do this job alone. I can't. You know what? I don't want to wake up in the morning and do this job. I don't want to finish the day and know that I have to go to work the next 4 days after, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And when I knew I couldn't, I was on the verge of like just quitting. I was just like, that's it. I would rather be homeless than have to do this job. I'm like, no, I got to start coming back to church. And, you know, God always puts the hard times in your life to realize that's when you need to draw closer to Him. Because if He sees that you're straying away sometimes, He's going to throw something back at you, make the struggle obvious, and be like, you can't run away from me because this is where you're going to end up. So sometimes when we see that the struggles happen, you get angry, God, why are you putting me through this, right? He's thinking not why you're putting you through, it's just like, I'm saving you from going further away than you need to be. And that was that part. And the second part is, I think that some people end up leaving the church because during the high school years they all want to fit in. And I think sometimes, depending on, even in the church, you'll find groups, right? And if they don't find acceptance in those groups within the youth, right, they're going to say like, well, I'll just go find acceptance where people are going to accept me regardless.
Yeah.
And then they'll just say like, peace out, right? That's it. I'm off to hang with friends that actually appreciate me.
Yeah. I think that's a huge part of it, man. It's like sometimes church can be like the place where you're least accepted, and where you feel like you don't fit in at all. You know, I think it's in part due to, you know, people are insecure, right? And so if somebody they don't know, you know, it's like people are most comfortable with the people that they know, you know. But then the other part of it, I think, is, you know, just like almost like a lack of authenticity. You know, that's, you know, we're all in this place, and we can try to pretend like we have it all together, but really that doesn't help anybody.
You're only fooling yourself, right?
So often, people are like, oh, Christians are such hypocrites because, they act all holy or like something like that. But, I think, the church needs to get back to a place, and I love, our church because, I really feel like this is a place more that's authentic. Like you can come and you can be you know what I mean? And you can ask questions and you can express like what you're going through and you can just be accepted for that. I think like this whole, it's like behave or belong, like versus belong. It's like you in with God and it should be with His church. It's like you belong way before you behave any way at all. You know what I mean? And I think that's huge. It's like we need to be real with each other and recognize that we all deal with stuff and nobody's perfect. Nobody has it all together. Like you mentioned it earlier. It's like we need to stop comparing ourselves and our lives to other people. We need to just really engage in relationship with each other, friendships, and, accept one another, and like be a place where as a community we can grow closer with each other and grow closer with God. That's why I love that's the heart of our church is relationship is everything. It's this relationship with God and relationship with others. And so, I think if we as people could just understand that and kind of get that in our hearts and in our spirits and live by that kind of motto where it's like, I don't have it all together, I don't have it all figured out, I might even be dealing with some things right now today, but I'm just going to continue to love God and I'm going to love people. I think like that's all it is. And it's like it sounds really simple, but I think we overcomplicate it. We say you have to follow 18 rules, you have to have this haircut, you have to talk this way, you have to memorize the whole Bible, and you have to have a Bible college degree. Are you making fun of my haircut right now?
No, I'm just saying that's the ball that you have to follow. You have to get that.
No. I had a nap at 3 o'clock and woke up. And it's like this. But it's not about any of those things, because when Jesus responded to that young ruler, he wasn't impressed with the fact that he had all those things down pat. Like he was just saying those things because in the Old Testament it was about the law. It was about following these commands. But the Bible says that when Jesus came, he brought grace, upon grace. Where the law once was, now there's grace. And so we don't live under the condemnation of the law. We live under grace. And we can walk in grace. And we can walk in that freedom that God has provided on our behalf. I think at the end of the day, we're not held to like this religiosity or this, it's just we can be authentic. Sorry, I'm talking too much.
When you first asked the question, it's something I'm actually going through too. You mentioned focus. Your focus was wrong. That you see perspective through however, I don't know, when I say media, society, your friends, whatever, how they see it. You're like, why do you do that? Why are you going to church on Sunday night? Like, you can be watching a movie. Like, you can be eating popcorn at home by yourself. I don't know. We focus on the temporal things, the things that feel good here and now. And we don't have this, the perspective of eternity. Because this life is really short, so I've been told. I'm 23 years in, I'll see how far I go. And even here, like he mentioned, go sell your possessions and give to the poor, and you'll have treasure in heaven. Heaven's not right now. Like, you can have heaven on earth, that kingdom come, that will be done on earth that is in heaven, but it's not right now. Like, you go through crap here, and it's the fight. Even today in my morning service, there's like this thing about faith and hope and how hope isn't something that you see right now. Like, I'm hoping that Jonathan's my cousin. No, I don't have to hope that because he is my cousin, But
you're trying to unhope that.
Sometimes. But hope requires a faith, and you have to wait for it. And while you wait, you don't get caught up in what's going on. Like, you deal with what's going on around you, but don't get caught up in it in circumstantial issues. And our focus is off.
Yeah.
That's something I'm working on. So.
That's cool. Yeah, that's a good thought. You know, and like in Book of Hebrews, it says that hope is an anchor for our soul, right?
That's exactly what you had down.
What?
She had that like exact verse just like sitting on her
Oh
phone.
yeah. And so like the whole idea with that is we often think about like we have like the hope for heaven and like this heavenly perspective, which is true, but it's like if you think about an anchor, it's always connected to a chain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like although like we aren't experiencing heaven right here, right now, we are connected because Jesus lives in us. You know, we are connected to that. And you know, just personally in my own life over the last year, you know, with my sister passing away, that's been really hard. But like that whole idea of that perspective of having hope and knowing that like, you know, for right here and right now, it's like, you know, things kind of suck and whatever. It's like we have hope for the future, and so I think that's important. But you know, when you lose that, when you think, oh man, there's no hope for me, when you just like getting that defeatist mentality or that, you know, that lack of perspective, when you're seeing through the wrong lens, you know, it'll affect, you know, it'll affect every aspect of your life. You know, you'll start making decisions based on what's good for today, you know, and I mean, it's never good. Floyd Mayweather bet $10 million on the 49ers. That sucks. That's a bad example, but you know what I mean? It's like, just like, I think having the right perspective helps us to like live rationally, like just have things kind of not having it all together, but having a direction and having almost like a compass. Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Anyone else? Any thoughts on that? Jonathan?
No, I'm gonna try. I don't know why. You started talking, and I just started something one of my worldly friends said to me. I got a bunch of friends who are not Christians or like atheists, whatever. One time he's like, he wanted to hang out Saturday, and I'm like, no, I can't stay all late. I have to wake up for band practice tomorrow. He's like, why do you gotta go to the Bible band for? He's just like, let's go to Niagara. You know, he's just like, but he called it the Bible band, and I'm like, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. The Bible band. That is great. I want to start a band. The Bible band. I need to trademark that. All right, so that's all I have to say.
The Bible band.
I think for me, one of the many reasons I kind of was like a popcorn kernel in church is like I was there for a minute and I was like, I'm not feeling it. But one of the reasons for me was in school I was called the church girl, the goody good, and I always took that as a bad thing. I don't know why, because everyone's like, oh, nice Bible, is that your Bible? I'm like, this is my science textbook.
You're like, this is your Bible.
And so I never really fit in anywhere. Everyone else had their little cliques in middle school. And that's where I kind of started feeling like, oh, this is kind of weird. I don't feeling like the odd person out. And so, slowly but surely, things happened in my life, and I'm just like, not blaming God necessarily, but I'm just like, I don't feel like I should be here right now. And I didn't feel connected at the time. I was in like a youth group, and I wasn't feeling connected there. And so I was just like, you know what? No one realized I'm gone, so I'm just gonna be gone. That's good now. And so I went through high school, made a lot of stupid mistakes, and finally one day, I think I was like 17, I was just sitting, I was like, it's Friday night, I'm so bored. It's just like, what is this? So I went online, I was like, churches in the area, or youth groups in the area. So I was like, nope. And then I came upon KRT's website, and I'm like,
We just had a good website, huh?
yeah. But no, I actually got a little lost, because it was saying, Youth and Young Adults was on Sunday nights. It is now, but, so, kind of started this phone tag. My mom called you and Calvin, and so finally I got to come out on Friday night, and I was welcomed instantly. So it was weird. And so I finally got that sense of connection and like belonging somewhere, and like, you know, finally feeling loved, not just by the people. I started to feel connected to God again. And so, although I made all those bad decisions, and sometimes it's hard to, you know, not think about that, ultimately I'm back here, and it's a daily struggle. I'm not saying I've had like times where I'm tempted every day, but you know, I try to persevere and push through it with God's help. So.
I just want to say something to that. For when you're bringing up how you were struggling with it and then you came back, that coming back, like you were saying, 50% or whatever the statistics are, for coming back, when you are, like for people who have been growing, I can't speak. Okay, so when you've been grown.
Let's try again. Think about what you say.
So I grew up in this church, and my dad was a Sunday school teacher. My mom, both of them were the young married couples leaders at the time, and I was dedicated here. The kids are dedicated here, and I mean, you grow up in the church, you learn the values, you learn the morals, you have them at home, they're instilled and almost innate in you by your upbringing. And when that is so base and fundamental in your early years in life, it seems to be that as you're growing older, as you're going through school, going through those years of confusion, you tend to come back and revert yourself to what is comfortable and what you know and what you've been brought up with. And for you, it was that struggle from my thinking of hearing what you're saying, and the struggle of you dealing with the fact that this is what's important to you, but it's hard to allow that importance to take control in your life because of everything going on around you and how you're feeling by other people judging you and making fun of you, and that's not the goal. And when we're older, coming back to the church, I mean, I saw it with myself through the 5 years that I was going through a lot, and I mean, when you have something that is so strong, like a faith, when you're young, it tends to come back when you're older because you have so much going on in your life and you feel like, okay, now I just can't do this on my own anymore. And I think that's really, really interesting. And I mean, you came back and it's great. And we're all here right now. So I mean, we all go through our own 4, 5, 10, 20 years of what am I doing, to realizing that this is why I'm here. God made me for a purpose. What is that purpose? And it's unfortunate that those crucial times when we could be making a difference in other people's lives, we have to deal with that, because if you are being a leader and making a difference between, say, 16 and 23, 24, 25, I mean, some people aren't and haven't grown up in the church, and they don't have those morals and values. They don't have that upbringing that could bring them back. And if you can make a difference in during those years, can you imagine how many people would actually maybe continue living their life? I mean, that's a dream. It's like the pageant, like going on to peace. And we all want it. It's going to happen. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good.
I don't know if I concluded my thought, but
yeah, I think for a lot of people it's like that realization, and it was for me that where I was in my life and the choices that have brought me there. I didn't want that. I didn't hope for that. I didn't, that wasn't ideal for me. At one point I may have thought that, but I came to a place, and really it was at the end of myself. It's like not until we come to the end of ourselves that we come to the beginning of God's grace for our lives. And in that moment, when I was at my lowest point, when I had, no desire left to, continue doing what I was doing, and he was one that, but it was my choice. A lot of people think, God is gonna force you to do something. He's gonna force you to be a Christian. Or, that's not how it works. We have free will to make decisions. We've all experienced that. When your parents say, "Oh yeah, you can make your own decision now." You can start, being responsible and responsibility. We are responsible for that ourselves, and I think a lot of times it takes realizing that, oh crap, like I make a lousy leader of myself. You know what I mean? Like, when I've really made a mess of things. And it, like even I read that verse, and you know, it's so cool when it said, where the heck is it? In my Bible app. Jesus says it to his disciples after they're asking, and he says, so the disciples asked, who has a chance at all to like enter God's kingdom, to be in a relationship with God? And Jesus said, it's like nobody has a chance if they think they can pull it off themselves. But you have every chance in the world if you trust God to do it. And I think that's the place where we need to come to in our lives, where we just realize, I cannot do this. I can't make the decisions. I can't live a moral life by myself. I can't, I can't do these things. It's realizing that it's not about me, it's about Jesus. And I'm so thankful for that realization. And, obviously, growing up in church, I learned some of those things and I had some of those ideas, but it was literally, for me, just like showing up at church and just like going through the motions. They sing songs and they share a message, but like literally it was just like there was just a song and worship, and I was just like literally overcome with God's presence. Like in that moment I felt it for real, and in that moment I just kind of said, okay, God, like I can't make these decisions for myself. Like I've made a mess of my life. It's jacked up. I just am like giving my life to you. Like I'm surrendering. People talk about that all the time, but it's just like in that moment, I just was completely overwhelmed. It was crazy. But it doesn't mean that like the rest of my life has been perfect. You know what I mean? I had an encounter with God and experience, but then it's like remembering every day that it's okay, it's not about me. It's not about how I'm feeling. It's not about the mistakes that I've made today. It's like just continuing to look to Jesus. And it's like the same grace that saved us is the grace that sustains us through our walk. And so I think that's something we often forget. It's like, it's like, okay, yeah, God, like I'm going to serve you. Like I give my life to you. It's like the next day, it's like we're back to doing our own thing. And that's the struggle that we deal with, is remembering that, okay, it's not about me. It's about Jesus. Just like the Bible says, we have to fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. So like keep them fixed. It's like stay, same spot. There's so many different examples of when like it's just like the idea of just like focusing on Jesus, what He's done. It's like we don't need to, live up to the expectations that anybody sets for us. And when we do that, we're going to fall short. The Bible says that all have fallen short of God's will, His expectation. All have sinned. Not one person is perfect. Not one person has it all together. Not one person has it all figured out. We're all in the same boat, and we're going to continue to do that. That's just how it is. We live in a messed up world. Each of us, you probably can't go a week with saying, oh, like I've done everything perfect. I haven't told one lie. Haven't thought one bad thought. Haven't sworn at somebody. Haven't yelled at my mom. Haven't punched my brother in the head. We've all done something this week. It's not. Nobody's perfect. And if you are, you're lying. So you're not perfect. But that's okay. And in order for us to live in such a way that not only allows us to flourish in life, we need to come to terms with that. We aren't perfect, but Jesus was, so we don't have to be. And then also living in such a way that doesn't communicate to people who don't know God that we have it all together. Because that's unfair. It's like if somebody is just like sees you and you aren't actually being you, you're being like perfect Christian with like you're tied up perfectly and like have it all together. It's like that does not fly with people, and that didn't fly with me. Growing up in church and like just super traditional and religious, it's like you see so much that contradicts that. It's like that doesn't make sense. But it's like if we were going to be people, we strive to be people that are just real. Like Paul was that way. He's like, man, if God can save me, like the chief of sinners, he like listed all the things that he did wrong. He's like, man, he could save anybody. You know, I was the worst of the worst. And that's the mentality that we as, you know, people need to take on if we want to be influential. Hey, I don't have it all together. I don't have it all figured out. But I know that, like, this is who I was. This is where I was at. And then Jesus touched my life. And this is where I'm at now. I'm still not perfect. Still don't have it all together. You know, and I think that's like the story that needs to be told. Not the story of like, oh, follow all the rules and you have it all together and like your life's going to be perfect and you're going to have lots of money and like all of these things. It's bogus, you know. And I think our generation doesn't buy into that message anymore. I think that's why people are leaving the church, and that's why, you know, other people just pass it off as just like another trend or another thing. So I'm talking way too much. Sorry. I hope that makes sense. Like I hope that kind of brings some perspective and reality, because I think it's, you know.
I mean, from another personal aspect too, you know, before you realize how much you actually need God, I went from counting down the minutes till church was ending to the point where, like, you know what I mean, I don't want it to end.
It's over.
You know what I mean? You get there, like,
I remember doing that.
I mean, there's some weeks where I'm really hungry. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean, but you know, there's sometimes that you think, you know, they finish the fourth song and you're just like, give me 4 more, right? Yeah, there's like, I'm ready for 4 more songs because you're really into it, right? And then you think, okay, well, if I came to the 10:15, I'll stay for the worship of the 12, and then I'll leave and grab lunch, right? Because I've already heard such ones, but I know, like, even youth on Friday night, high school, like, the set list that they had for those 4 songs there was incredible. And like that was one week where I'm just like, let's keep going, right? Like I didn't want it to end. So it was just, it's times like that you realize that when you lose track of time because you're so overwhelmed with how great God is and how much He's done in your life and how He knows He's always going to be there for you, it's the times that you know that, you know what I mean, like that is what you should be doing. Because find something else that'll be able to, you know, overwhelm your life that much. And at the same time as you having a great time doing it, it's blessing you as well too. Sure, you can have a great time playing Call of Duty, right? 4 hours on end, but it's not blessing you in any way, yeah. but it's not, you know, it's not blessing you anymore. And I noticed that was one big change that I saw coming back.
Yeah, I think that like comes back to like the whole idea of fulfillment, right? It's like you get a lot of things that fill your time, but they're not a lot of things that fulfill your life.
Ooh, what is it called?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, go for it. No, yeah, come on.
Yeah, no, so kind of what you were saying about how when you're in service and a lot of the times, you know, of course there's great messages, but the worship is such a great way to start Sunday or start youth. At the same time, we can start our day like that. I mean, we have YouTube, we have the songs in our minds. Exactly. I find a lot of time when I'm making dinner, I just throw on YouTube and I'm like singing Hillsong songs. It's like,
Yeah.
Wouldn't spoon. Anyways.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, it's a great way to open up your heart. I mean, we don't just have to do it on Friday or Saturday or Sunday. We can do it every day of the week. We can do it before we go to school or work. I mean, you can sing in your car. I do that too. But I mean, it's not just coming to church and feeling that drive or feeling that presence of God. We have to realize that we need to bring that home. We need to bring that back to our houses where our home, like our family is, our mom or dad or our siblings who maybe aren't following Christ, and showing them the happiness and the spirit that we have and that God provides for us. And sometimes that's a great thing too, that we don't negate to, we keep to ourselves, and sometimes it's the same, like when you're in church. Sorry.
Keep going, no, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
Sometimes people are, I know when I was younger, people were afraid to raise their hand and reach out to God and really absorb the moment. And I think we need to respond according to obedience to God when He's saying, look, you feel me in you. You're worshiping, you're singing words of joy and hope and just reach out to me because I'm waiting. And I mean, that's what God is waiting for. That's why you feel that feeling. He is waiting for you to reach out. And I think we tend to hold back during those times of year rather than letting it out. And sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just at church. We should feel that.
So it's just like about a response. It's about just like waking up and being intentional about.
Yeah, it's all about like a personal relationship with God. It's not a religion. It's a relationship that you have individually with Jesus. And why not worship Him all day long if that's how you feel that connection? Because then you're praising Him, right?
I mean, it's like when I'm at work, I used to put just secular music on and be like, oh man, this day's dragging, right? But now I'm just like, yo, throw Jesus culture on. I know if I listen to this album 6 times, work's done, right? So
like today they sang Lord, You're Amazed by You, and oh my gosh, it's my favorite song. I put it on and I'm like, repeat, at home, repeat. My family's like, Chanel, you're crazy. I'm like, don't worry, baby, just do your thing.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask another question.
Yeah, it's like, are we?
that was a good discussion. Yeah.